just going to say thank you so much, Nick, for joining us today for our second interview in our series of 3 with leaders of our Imagine Impact campaign. So we appreciate you taking some time to do this with us today and answer some questions. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what does home mean to you, Nick?
Well, it makes me smile when I think about home. And I think that's what it is. It's that place that you feel loved. You get to spend time with your family. You invite your friends over. It's that safe place that, I guess that's what I would say is it's just my safe place. I can be myself and
for sure
enjoy family.
For sure. So Habitat has had a really long experience with not only Huntington, but First Merit initially. So when this affiliate was founded in 1986, we were a First Merit customer, transferred then into becoming a Huntington customer. And, aside from, us being a customer and those kinds of things, why did you, Nick, answer that call when we asked you to be a part of this Imagine Impact campaign?
Well, one, it's hard to say no to Rochelle. But yeah, the why behind it, at Huntington, we talk about, this mission we have for looking out for people. And I think that that's a shared mission with Habitat. And, looking out for people, one of those base levels is, do you have a home? Do you have shelter? Do you have safety and security? And so we want that for our colleagues at the bank, and we certainly want it for, the members of the community. And so we are really intentional about investing in those things, whether it's through volunteerism or it's financial support or serving on a committee or on the board of Habitat, really whatever we can do to help support the mission of home ownership. I think that's just really important. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about housing stability. How do you think, in your opinion, how does that housing stability affect the economic stability of the workforce? Not maybe even just here in Summit County, but just, across the US. How does that stable house affect economics?
Yeah, I think that how you feel as a person affects how you go to work and how you perform at work. And if you have a stable home life, and that includes, being secure in your housing, then you come to work ready to focus on work rather than concerned about things outside of work. And that's at a base level. That's what I think about, is housing security. Growing up, I always knew I was going to have a roof over my head. I didn't have to worry about that. I'm a big fan of Maslow's hierarchy of need. And if you're hungry or you're housing insecure, if you're not safe, then how do you do anything else? So I just think it's that basic.
Yeah. And we talk a lot, and I know the funders in our community, Huntington included, you talk a lot about funding those basic needs, the food, the clothing, and the shelter. And, certainly we want to be able to, have funding opportunities for other things in our communities, arts and culture and those types of activities. Yep. But, it's really hard sometimes to kind of digest that, when families don't have a safe place to live, that they participate in arts and culture, because that's they're thinking of what food bank am I going to be able to go to be able to get, a week's worth of groceries, for my family, or,
yes.
Am I going to be able to pay my utility bills this month, or am I going to get another shutoff notice? So, that I can appreciate your side of the fence as a funder and how difficult it probably is to choose, where the Huntington Foundation and where even Huntington employees give their time to volunteer. And we're blessed that you guys pick Habitat for Humanity and participate in all kinds of different ways. Not just the funding, but, positions on our board of trustees and, supporting us through, a line of credit that we have at the bank. And you even helped us in this building that we're sitting in today and make sure that this
Yeah,
can become our home, kind of our safe place to operate. So again, long time partnership, and it's so much appreciated.
it's our pleasure.
So research shows, that a person's access to opportunities are directly linked to the community where they live. And Akron as a community, Summit County, it's pretty connected. Pretty wonderful weave of opportunities
Yes.
that people do have here. So our Imagine Impact campaign, as you know, is our campaign over the next 5 years to kind of build up our community by building more new homes, rehabbing homes that are available. So how do you see that growth affecting our community, and how that might even impact Huntington's workforce, knowing that we have 3 Habitat homeowners currently that work for Huntington in the banking system?
Yeah, well, when you see new construction and rehab, I think that represents a thriving community or a thriving neighborhood, and people get excited about that. And I think when you see it, it provides encouragement for others to also build or renovate. So, the neighborhoods that y'all decide to renovate and locate homes in, I think you're going to catalyze other development around it. So I don't look at it as 75 homes. I just think of some multiple of that, a substantial multiple. I don't know if it's 10 times, but I just believe that what you're doing is going to inspire other people to make improvements in that neighborhood. It's going to inspire people to come and live in the neighborhood. I love Akron. I moved to Akron 2 years ago and live in the west side, and there's lots of renovation work with the city's incentive around property tax.
Right.
I mean, it's just a great time to be investing. So I think what you're doing is, helping people. It's also providing, an economic catalyst as well. So
Yeah.
that's what I think about that.
Yeah, that real estate tax abatement in the city of Akron has been huge.
Yes.
It has moved the needle on the Akron lots that we had in our inventory, of seeing more families pick those lots year after year, instead of us acquiring land outside of the city. When you can take a payment which might have been with principal, taxes, and insurance from,
Hmm.
let's say, 650 a month down to 400 because of that tax abatement for 15 years, that moves the needle big for those low to moderate
Yes.
income families, and
Well,
makes a great opportunity for them to become a homeowner and invest in the city. Um, and that was something that in our interview last week with Dr. James, he talked a lot about is, just adding more kids in Akron public schools, and
yes.
kids being more stable in the community where they are attending, and not worrying about
Hmm.
those boxes and bags and move into the next house, or next place that their family might have to rent. So
Right.
yeah,
I
stability,
agree.
it's at the heart of everything. So let's talk a little bit about the working at home, because I'm sure there are still, Huntington folks that are kind of in that, where we are with the all-time high with the COVID-19 pandemic. And so what do you think the role of a healthy home is for families, and even those Huntington employees that are having to work remotely?
Hmm.
How is that affecting your workforce at Huntington?
Sure. We always talk about the 3 stakeholders that we serve. There are 4, but our colleagues, our customers, and our community. And of course, it benefits the shareholders, through earnings. But when COVID hit, and it was probably around March 17th that folks went home, we said, hey, in order to make sure you're safe as a colleague, work from home. And we worked really hard from a technology standpoint to help them do that. And I think at the high point, we had probably 85% of our 16,000 colleagues working from home. And there's still that large percentage. I don't know if it's 85%, but it's close, that are still working from home. And so, I think if they didn't have a stable home to be in, that's where you're working. And how do you, I mean, if your utilities, aren't on, if you don't have internet, if you don't have the technology, you're having to move from, one apartment to another. I just cannot imagine being able to do your job and do it well for your employer, whether it's Huntington or anyone else. And so that's the value of stable home life, whether you own the home or not. Well,
Sure.
you've got to feel that I've got a place that I can settle in and then focus on, higher level thinking like my job, as opposed to how am I going to find a place to live.
Right. Right. So you talked a little bit in the beginning about, what home meant to you, but is there, can you recall a time, or is there a childhood memory of maybe how your housing conditions affected you as a child, or something you can pinpoint back to your childhood?
It's a really good question. I mean, I think about my former houses a lot, and I know that sounds weird because I'm 57, but um, I still visit those places in my mind
Mhm.
because of the great memories that I have. So I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, and so I picture my house out in Drexel Lake and my yard, and um, just all over that house. I explore that house in my mind often because of all the memories. So I can't imagine not having that to provide comfort. If you're having a tough day and you want to kind of go back and visit the comforting places, that's certainly one. And lived in Atlanta for a long time, and I visit that house and my house here in Ohio. And so I don't know. I know that sounds weird, but I visit those houses a lot, and how it affected my education and upbringing. Again, I think it's a security thing. And of course, my mom and dad and my family were there too, but you get this connection to a house
Mhm.
um, that you'll always remember it. I mean, as long as you have fond memories in it, you'll
Yeah.
still remember it even if you don't. But yeah, I really have an emotional connection to the homes that I grew up in, and I have an emotional connection with the house I'm in now. Cindy did all the renovation work as the construction manager, and she just did an amazing job. And so I think about with Habitat how y'all have folks help build their own home and do their own renovation, and how that feeling of I helped with this, and you get to sit back and look at it and say I did this. I mean, that's that emotional connection that you develop, which is, you think it's kind of weird you develop an emotional connection with a house, but I really think you do, because you come to love it and it means a
I,
lot to you.
I can visualize Cindy with her clipboard and checklist and drill in one hand with the clipboard in the other, kind of, directing traffic of all the construction
Absolutely.
going on.
She,
I
yes.
can visualize her doing that.
Well, Cindy's a nurse, and so she gets it.
She gets it. She's a taskmaster.
Yes, she gets it done.
And there, I don't know if you're listen to country music at all, but there's a
Yes,
Miranda Lambert song about, the house she grew up in.
yes, I
Uh,
love that song.
yes, and every time I hear it, I just think to myself, you know, part of me just gets that might be a young person someday thinking
Yes,
that about their habitat house.
yes,
When we think across our U.S. spectrum, and some of the famous people, let's say, that have grown up in habitat homes, Deshaun Watson is one of our, super successful, right, product of a habitat home. And Boris Henderson, former, mayor in Charlotte, North Carolina, and now on our Habitat International Board of Trustees. So, two, wonderful, wonderful folks that have just,
yes.
been products of Habitat for Humanity as children moving into their homes. And Deshaun's mom still lives in her Habitat home.
Is
So
that right?
he paid it off for her recently, and they just put an addition on it, but she does still live in that home. And
Amazing.
he's a huge humanitarian when it comes to habitat. So um,
Yes,
just the interweavings, and just when we get invitations, for example, to graduations and then baby showers and weddings for children that have grown up
yeah,
in homes that we've built, that just speaks volumes to me of the connection that the families feel to their house, even though at that point, we just hold and service their mortgage.
Right.
There's still that connection, people, the relationships that are built. So
Well, you walk into a home in which folks have lived for some time, and you're going to find on some door jam all the kids being measured.
yeah.
You know, it's in every house. It's on a door. It's on a door jam. It's there.
Yep.
And I think it's just things like that that you just build this connection to this physical thing, which is, again, it's an inanimate object, but it wraps you up at night. It's there.
It does.
You know.
It does. So you mentioned, about families building, and being a part of this process. So, how do you think that physical involvement, both by the parents and then what they're showing their children, what do you think long term, how does that resonate long term with the family in your opinion?
Yeah, I just believe people want to be invested. I really don't believe folks want to be given something. They do want to have ownership in it. And if they don't have the money necessarily to have ownership in it, they certainly want to be able to put their handprint, literally on where they're going to be living. I just think that it's building that emotional connection to this inanimate object that says, I built this and it matters to me, and I'm going to take care of it, and it's going to take care of me and my family. Um, yeah, I think you just want to invest in it.
Yeah, for years to come, right?
Yeah,
You want to
absolutely.
create the legacy, for their entire family.
Oh, for generations. I
Yeah.
mean, there are many families that have lived in homes, 2 and 3 generations and some more.
Some.
So,
Yeah. So, what would you say, Nick, to donors, about our Imagine Impact campaign? So, if you had something that you could offer, to somebody maybe considering being a part of Habitat, or, consider, joining us, either as with a financial gift or with volunteer time or donation of materials, what would you say to them your experience has been with Habitat, and why would you encourage them to participate?
sure. Well, I mean, I think you've done a really good job of having a guided discussion of what home means to folks. And I would just encourage people to think about that. And do they have an emotional connection to home ownership or stability of housing? And if it means a lot to them and it's important to them in their personal giving, then what better place to make that investment financially than in Habitat for Humanity? Whether it's, if they can't come out and build the house, certainly being able to provide financial support so that others can is one way to help. And recognizing not one person can do it all. I guess somebody could write the biggest check ever, and y'all could rely on that. But I think there's just this value in many hands making a lot of work much easier, and that we can each do something. It may not be the biggest financial investment, but what's that personally meaningful investment given the emotional connection that we have to this mission of Habitat, so that those that don't have that connection, they don't have the home that we've grown up with, can have that, for the rest of their lives and their children.
Yeah. So, how do you personally, Nick, plan to kind of continue your support through this 5-year campaign we've kind of kicked off? And we have done in the past these things we call CEO build days, where we've kind of garnered together a handful of CEOs from the community, and usually one of them champions it and says, hey, come on out and join me for a day. And I don't know how to hold a hammer, but they'll show us.
That would be me. I'll have Cindy come out.
So how do you see yourself being able to stay engaged here over the next 5 years and even beyond?
Yeah, well, what I love about campaigns is they put a stake in the ground, and it's very public about, the opportunity to be involved. And so I would look to you, Rochelle, and the board to say, here are ways that we think that you could be really relevant to this organization over the next 5 years from a campaign perspective. So from an advocacy standpoint and helping us get the word out, if it is, having a CEO day, if it's having colleagues from Huntington Bank and myself come out to help on homes or financial investment, and hey, why not all three? But really to be involved and take an interest and be connected to this campaign.
Yeah, all three is the trifecta, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Well,
trifecta.
and that would be a lot of fun, right? We can all do a little bit of each.
Hey, just ask Amy Patton. She's been out a handful of times. I've seen
Amazing.
her wield her hammer and cut some siding and be a part of it. So
Well, it sounds like we'll put two teams together. Cindy can lead one team and Amy can lead the other, and I'll go follow both of them.
There you go. Well, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, I do appreciate your time today very, very much and being a part of this. And, as we started to launch this thing, our plan was to kick it off April 1st. And,
Yes.
By that point we were on shutdown. So we're trying to get ourselves in a position to really relaunch this thing. We have the first 4 homes, actually, I'm sorry, the second 4 homes under construction right now at that East Avenue development, which Huntington is a big part of. So those second 4 in that phase are under construction now. Roofs are going on this week. But we're behind, we're behind with the shutdown. Our staff too,
Okay.
We're about 90 days behind in our building efforts this year. And then, the product availability and the supply chain breakages and being able
I hear wood prices are up 300%.
Yes. And treated lumber is impossible to find.
Yep.
When you can find it, the cost is extreme.
Right.
We're having a shortage in being able to get windows and doors and siding. We even had a hard time getting a roofing contractor in place this year because either they're so busy or they've had to let their people go. So we're just kind of caught in the middle of how do we get these houses built during a pandemic. And we just keep going at it each day. Our loyal volunteers are back to our job sites. A few of our corporate work groups have come back sporadically in smaller groups. So we have to limit the number of people we can have on the build site to keep everybody safe. But we are building it outside.
Yep.
So we're doing our best. It'll be a little tougher when the weather turns and we've got to move inside for drywall work and so forth. So it'll be a little more challenging.
Sure will be.
And just be proactive so that we can protect people, that want to come out and be a part of our mission.
How are y'all doing with funding?
Well, we are, again, a little bit behind, with where we are in terms of making sure that those 4 houses are fully funded. We did receive home dollars again through the city of Akron to support those projects. We did get a couple lead gifts at the beginning of the campaign, the Corbin Foundation, which I know you're involved with them. And Westfield provided a large kickoff gift to the campaign.
Okay, good.
We did apply just this week for the Akron Community Foundation through the CARES fund to try to receive some support, program support for those houses. We're working on our Huntington Foundation grant as we do every year.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was going to ask.
Yep, we're working on that. We should have that submitted, I would imagine, here by the end of the week, if not sooner. And again, we're just trying to keep pushing forward. The families are waiting. They're waiting for their houses to be built because they understand the fact that we got pushed behind 90 days. So that they've got to live longer in their rental situations. And when you look at the cost of those rental situations, and what it impacts their overall monthly layout for what they're putting out for rent and utilities and their living costs, the Habitat home then lowers that each to them and gives them an opportunity to put a little bit away in savings for their future. So we just keep at it every single day.
Well, I will look forward to receiving your application and
Thank you.
helping with that. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Nick. Again, I appreciate your time today so much. I appreciate your support over the years. I've been here 15 years, was at my position with the Urban League for 7 years. So, I sometimes laugh. I remind people I convinced you to, strut across the stage wearing
Oh
like
my gosh,
furs and leathers or something
that's
for
right. I
the event
remember
that we
that.
did. Yeah, you pulled, I think, some karate moves or
I
something.
haven't done it since, but I remember it.
That was one of the funnest events I've ever had an opportunity,
Oh my.
you know, to
Yeah, that
watch.
was a lot of fun. But again, I think that's like one of those one and done things. I didn't want to do that again.
You'll
It
never,
was so fun. I could never do it again.
you can never repeat that performance
No.
ever,
Mm-mm.
ever. So
No.
I appreciate both your longtime friendship and your longtime professional support and your mentorship.
Well, thank you for your leadership. We really appreciate it. We wouldn't be able to make the investment if there wasn't someone and some organization to invest in, and y'all are doing an incredible job. So thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Well, until I see you the next time, hopefully then out at a build site. Have a wonderful
Okay.
day.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the second video in our roundtable discussion series. Join us on November 5th at noon when we discuss with Grace Wakulchik, President and CEO of Akron Children's Hospital, affordable housing's effects on children's health. Access all past videos and learn how you can personally join our movement at hfhsummitcounty.org/Imagine Impact.